This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg back here with you, Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Keeping an eye on our live bets here. The Dodgers and Cubs are tied at 2, bottom of the 6th inning, 1 out. And the Dodgers do have a runner on third. We had the live over 6.5. So we're looking we're looking okay right now. I'd love to get another run here across in this inning. If Dodgers take a 3-2 lead, I'd feel a lot better about it. As it looks like Teoscar Hernandez just lined out. So Miguel Rojas is up right now. Again, 2-2, Dodgers and Cubs, bottom of the 6th inning. Let's get back to the NHL conversation. Joining us now on the Progressive Guest Line is Kevin Rogers, sports betting analyst at Proline TV, also network anchor on the Florida Panthers radio network. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And I want to get your thoughts on some of the topics here in the NHL. Down the stretch we come, as there's still playoff spots on the line. The wild card races I find to be fascinating. The Columbus Blue Jackets in the Eastern Conference trail the Canadiens by 3 games. And I'm not going to talk about Ottawa, but they trail the Canadiens by 3 games. They both have 2 games left. Who in your mind, 3 points, who in your mind, Kevin, gets the second wild card in the Eastern Conference, Montreal or Columbus?
I got to believe, Scott, it's still going to be Montreal when it's all said and done. The Columbus won a couple games against Washington and the Capitals. I mean, I don't want to say they totally tanked yesterday, but they have a third-string goalie, and Ovechkin doesn't play. Columbus runs them out, and then Columbus beats them again here on the road. I mean, Montreal was fortunate to get a point yesterday, and that lost to Toronto. But the final 2 games for Montreal, tomorrow against Chicago, one of the worst teams in the NHL, then Carolina, who has locked up the 2 seed in the Metro. They're going to play New Jersey in the first round. They have nothing to play for. So you would think Montreal can do enough just to get that wild card. And they've been a great story this year. I mean, Columbus, the problem with them is that they played well early and then kind of fell off, and then they had to make a comeback to get back into the wild card race in the Eastern Conference. And Columbus goes to Philadelphia coming up tomorrow, and then they host the Islanders at the end. So Columbus has 2 games against teams that are out of it, and that's always the hardest part of this is, you know, those kinds of teams. Like the Flyers are playing well. Ever since Tortorella got fired, they're playing better in a sense. So that's a scary team. And the Islanders, they beat the Devils today. They've had kind of a rough end to the season. So, I mean, you never know. I just think that Montreal, when it's all said and done, will do enough to get that second wild card.
In the Western Conference, we have Calgary playing right now against San Jose. They have a 2-1 lead in the first intermission. Minnesota and St. Louis both played last night and had to come back and force overtimes. It was good for Minnesota. It was bad for St. Louis losing in the shootout. Minnesota's got 95 points as the first wild card. St. Louis 94 as the second wild card. And if Calgary finishes the job tonight, they'll have 92 points, but also a game in hand on both of those teams. So pick 2 out of 3, Kevin. Who are your 2 wild cards in the Western Conference?
I mean, I know it's a boring answer, Scott, but I'm still going to go with the top 2 with Minnesota and St. Louis. I mean, Minnesota, they have Kirill Kaprizov back, so that's obviously a major advantage for them here down the stretch. And getting the win over Vancouver, obviously, you know, I think will solidify them into one of the 2 wild cards. What's so interesting with St. Louis is they struggled early on. Jim Montgomery gets fired from the Bruins, like a week later goes to the Blues. You think, okay, maybe he's going to get them jump-started a bit. It took a little bit of time, gets them jump-started. They win 12 in a row. Unfortunately, now they've lost 3 straight. They got a point against Seattle last night. But this is a team that is absolutely playing the best hockey of anybody in the league, and now they've kind of fallen off a little bit. Calgary, assuming they hold on tonight, against St. Louis, so up to 92 with 1 extra game to go, or one game in hand. I still think that Minnesota's going to finish it off. Minnesota gets Anaheim, and St. Louis gets Utah at home. So those are games that you would think those teams would win to finish it off. And Calgary's had a nice comeback towards the end of the season to at least get into the conversation. I mean, it's been a bit up and down recently. They haven't had any sustain losing streaks, but I think that Minnesota and St. Louis will end up getting in, and Minnesota could scare someone if they end up, depending on, if they're the 1 or the 2 wild card. If Minnesota faces Winnipeg in the first round, if they're the second wild card, never know. And then even against Vegas, I just think that these wild card teams in the West, I think a little more convincing of them maybe doing something than the teams in the East.
That's a fair point there. Sticking in the West right now, the Dallas Stars, Kevin, are your favorite to win the Stanley Cup. They're plus 650, the shortest odds, but they've lost 5 straight games. Now, I made the analogy earlier that it kind of reminds me of Auburn going into the NCAA tournament, losing 3 of their last 4 games, yet they were still the number 1 overall seed to win the NCAA tournament because they did enough during the regular season and the talent is there. We know the talent is there for Dallas, right? Ever since they acquired Mikko Rantanen, I think it puts them over the top. At least that's what I thought when I bet them to win the Cup. But I don't like what I've seen watching them lose 5 straight games. Do you think that they are a worthy favorite right now to win the Cup?
I think so. Well, number one, this is where you go back through time in any sport. I mean, maybe not the NFL, but in sports with longer seasons, and you say, how many teams have won a Stanley Cup or won an NBA Finals or something like that where they've had a 4 or 5 game losing streak late in the season? You forget about it when we hit the playoffs, when you play like a round or two. You don't remember what happened a few weeks ago. Now, obviously, Dallas with that huge meltdown against Vancouver this past week, you're up 3 goals in the minute to go. You think it's done. Vancouver ties it, and then you still lose in overtime. Is that going to be the beginning of a tailspin for Dallas, or is it the other side of the argument where you say, all right, they had a slight chance to maybe catch Winnipeg for first place in the Central. Winnipeg was leading the whole time, and Dallas had a 7-game winning streak before this 5-game losing streak, and they had a slight shot to maybe catch them. They couldn't, but they had enough breathing room ahead of Colorado. So when it's all said and done, they should be where they should be, that they're going to be the 2nd seed. You can hit the reset button once you finish game 82. You're going to play Colorado. It's not going to be easy against the Avalanche, but this is who you're going to draw anyway. You're going to have to get through tough teams in the Western Conference regardless. So I do believe, in spite of this recent stretch, the Vancouver loss, which was terrible, they lost at home to Pittsburgh, which was a real head-scratcher as well. The Minnesota game, they went on the road and lost in overtime. So they've had opportunities. It's not like they've been bad. They just haven't closed. The bullpen's been bad in a sense. They just haven't been able to close in these games. But I think Dallas is where they're at. I think that they didn't blow anything as far as, they could have been, the 1 seed was still kind of a pipe dream in a way. So being the 2, I don't think is crazy. And also being the Stanley Cup favorite, I don't really know if people are trusting Winnipeg or Washington. Those are your top 2 teams.
Yep.
And how you make them not the favorite. That's got to say something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, and we're talking to Kevin Rogers from Proline TV on the Progressive Guest Line. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN. Is Winnipeg being disrespected? They're 11-1 to win the Cup, and there are several teams ahead of them, yet they have the best record. They're going to win the President's Trophy. They have the best goaltender in the league, who's going to win the Vezina and the Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player. Yet, as I mentioned, they're 11-1 to win the Cup.
It's really odd because Winnipeg had that unbelievable start to the season. This team was 15-1 out of the gate. Like, how are you 15-1? You win the President's Trophy. You've been in first place since day 1 of the season, and you're not the favorite to win it all. And like you said, you have a world-class goalie in Hellebuck. You have several great scorers, Kyle Connor and Scheifele, that you have all these guys you could depend on. Winnipeg's got a really good home ice advantage, and yet you're being disrespected. Like, that it just seems to me there's got to be a reason behind it. Like, why is that? And if Winnipeg draws Minnesota or St. Louis in the first round, 2 division rivals, teams that have seen them plenty. I mean, Winnipeg was a team that last year, a lot of people forget, beat Colorado in the first round, 7-6 in game 1, then lost the next 4. And they got torched in those 4 games. So, is that a sign of things to come that maybe, Hellebuck in the playoffs, you don't really trust him? We haven't seen Winnipeg go to a Stanley Cup final, that there maybe is something there to it. Okay, they could get through the wild card team in the first round, but then if you get Dallas, Colorado, it's not going to be an easy road for them. And then eventually Vegas maybe, or Edmonton, or even if LA advances that far, that it's definitely going to be tough. The Western Conference, there's no easy outs in that Western Conference.
Kevin, we've got about a minute left. I know you do work with the Panthers Radio Network. It's going to be Panthers Lightning in the first round. Does home ice matter in this series when you consider the close proximity of the two franchises?
I still think it does, just because of Game 7, potential Game 7, that you don't want to feel like, even if you're going, the short distance to Tampa or to Sunrise, that, if you're the road team, you can't feel great about that. And the Panthers have won Game 7s before on the road. They did it in Boston a few years ago, but they've had their problems with the Lightning in the playoffs. Yes, they beat them last year, but they've had problems with them in the past. So I don't think they're going to get the home ice, that they're not going to catch them. But at the same time, it is important, but it should be a very good series, and we'll see if they can knock them off for a second straight year.
Well, great stuff, Kevin. We'll catch up with you as we progress throughout the playoffs. Appreciate the time and the insight.
Thank you, Scott.
There he is, Kevin Rogers, sports betting analyst for Proline TV, also network radio host for the Florida Panthers broadcast network. Yeah, the Panthers at 98 points will be trailing the Lightning by 4 after Tampa Bay. We'll get the updated standings, or actually, no, it has been updated already. Tampa's got 100 points, the Panthers with 98. Both teams 2 games left in the regular season. Flames still with a 2-1 lead over the Sharks 5 minutes into the second period. Edmonton a 2-1 lead over Winnipeg as we have 9 minutes left in that third period. Plus, we'll update you on what's going on with Sunday Night Baseball coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We roll on here, Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I'm Scott Seidenberg, always on Twitter at Scott's On Air or at VSiN Live. Oilers with a 3-1 lead over the Jets, 6 minutes to go in regulation. The Sharks have scored a goal and have knotted things up with the Flames at 2-2. Still 13 minutes to go in the second period. I don't like it, but I also don't hate it because we do have the team total as well for the Calgary Flames to go over 3.5. So, yes, we have the Flames on the money line, which they are still a minus 270 favorite. We have them minus a goal and a half, which you can get right now at plus 120. But if they're going to win the minus goal and a half, we need them to score 4 goals anyway, right? Because our handicap was them covering the puck line, them scoring at least 4 goals. So 2 goals for the Sharks is okay as long as that's all they get. No more. A 4-2 win is perfect. A 5-2 win's great. A 6-2 win, who cares? But we expected the Flames to score 4 goals. We still need the Flames to score 4 goals. So we're right here where we kind of, in no man's land, but not panic time right now. 2-2, again, 13 minutes to go in regulation there. In the second period. Not regulation. In the second period there in Calgary. Still about 45 minutes away from puck drop in Anaheim. The Ducks hosting the Avalanche. I do like the Avalanche the Ducks to beat the Avalanche. You can get it plus 110, plus 115, depending on the book. Or a way that I also like playing this is going with the Ducks team total over 2.5 goals. So keep an eye on that. You can lay, a little bit of juice, go over 2.5 goals for the Anaheim Ducks. Avalanche will be without Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, kind of just playing out the strings. Final game of the regular season for them as they look forward to the playoffs. Well, the Cubs have scored. They got a home run by Pete Crow Armstrong, his second home run of the day. PCA having himself a night on Sunday Night Baseball. Cubs lead the Dodgers 3-2 as they head to the bottom of the 7th inning in L.A., and we have that over 6.5. I feel great about it right now. If the Dodgers can get 1 run, this is going to be the old hockey adage where we say 3 + 3 = 7, right? That's what we say in hockey when you're betting over 6.5 in a hockey game, and it's 3-3. No matter what happens, it's got to get to 7 goals because it goes into overtime or a shootout. Same thing here with this Dodgers game. If the Dodgers can tie this thing up, We're guaranteed the over 6.5. It's a win. Right now, your live total is at 7.5 plus 130 to the over at 3-2. Cubs lead the Dodgers in the bottom of the seventh inning. One out right now in the bottom of the seventh inning, as I believe, was it Ohtani just got out. He flew out to deep right field. So Mookie Betts is up here in the bottom of the seventh inning. And we just need one run from the Dodgers would be great. 3-3 tie. Like I said, we are guaranteed our win. Or if the Dodgers can score two, we'll take that win as well. But Mookie Betts just hits this one, and it looks like it is going to be an easy fly out. So we got 2 outs here in the bottom of the seventh inning. All right, also keeping track, as I mentioned, on our NHL live bets that we're focusing on here. As for both of these teams on Sunday Night Baseball, a couple of you not tweeting at me, not feeling the Sunday night fade for the Cubs because of the short travel to San Diego. And I get it. Obviously, I'd like it to be a much longer travel situation. That's the whole point of the fade, is to have the travel and the late night arrival. And you're only a quick hopper flight to San Diego, or 2.5 hour drive, 2 hour, by the time they get out of that ballpark, though, traffic, all that stuff, police escort, I guess you can get down there in 2 hours if depending on when they leave. If they're just going to drive down there tonight, I would not think that they drive there tomorrow, unless, like I said, unless you get a police escort or whatnot, because that'll be a pain in the what. But I still would fade the Cubs, especially depending on what happens tonight. The Cubs bullpen much better in this series than they've been the entire season. And the Cubs have been okay to start the year. But the bullpen has not. The bullpen is a bottom 5 bullpen in Major League Baseball. But yet, they shut out the Dodgers last night. And that game was over with, right? Once they score all those runs in the 7th inning, the runs in the 8th and 9th, and in the 9th you're facing a position player. It doesn't even matter. But before that, they get blanked 3-0 by the Dodgers. They give up 6 runs to the Rangers in the game before that, and the Rangers scoring, really all their runs in the 4th inning when Imanaga comes out of the game, and your reliever just can't bail him out. And then the windy game that happened there earlier when the total was 6.5, that game somehow goes over because the Cubs scored 7 runs and the Rangers didn't score any. That was kind of fluky there, but that was 30-degree weather. And you thought maybe going to L.A. and getting out of the cold would be a little bit of a shock to the body, a little bit of a vacation-like atmosphere, and maybe that's what it was for the first game of the series when they lost 3-0. They got out of the cold, they arrive in L.A., weather's nice, and they lose 3-0. But then they locked it down. Yesterday was a very impressive, especially offensive performance. And today, really the only offense, the majority of the offense has been provided by one player, Pete Crow Armstrong, who here on Sunday Night Baseball absolutely showing out for the cameras with the 2 solo home runs. But the Dodgers might have something cooking here. 2 outs. They got a runner on first base, trailing 3-2. And we have the over 6.5, which we are tracking. Live number right now, back down to 6.5, although the over is at -200. So the 7.5, you can get a little bit of plus money there. All right, keeping an eye on what's going on the ice as the Oilers look to wrap up their win here against the Winnipeg Jets, up 3-1 with 2 and change remaining. So you're going to get the empty net possibilities here for Edmonton. In fact, that game is now off the board with, I guess, the assumption that we will get the empty net here for the Winnipeg Jets, meaning that the Oilers will chip in at least another goal. And for Edmonton, it's an important win. As I mentioned before, looking at the standings, they are trying to chase down the LA Kings for home ice advantage in that first round series. They're going to play the Kings in the first round, and the 2 seed is going to have the home ice advantage. Right now, LA has 101 points. If Edmonton wins this game, they will have 99 points. They're going to be 2 points back. These 2 teams will play each other tomorrow night in Edmonton. A win for the Oilers would tie them with the Kings at 101 points. And then Edmonton plays the Sharks to end the year. You would think that's a win. They can get to 103. The Kings, meanwhile, will have the second of a back-to-back in Seattle, and then they have to play the Calgary Flames, who, depending on what happens tonight, are playing for their playoff lives. Now, that Calgary game could be meaningless for Calgary if they don't hold up their end of the bargain tonight and in their next game, but it could mean everything for Calgary. And then you're talking about L.A., it's essentially a playoff game. Calgary playing for the playoffs, L.A. playing for the home ice advantage. A big win tonight for the Edmonton Oilers in terms of those standings. A big win. Why? I'll repeat. The Kings are just dominant on home ice. They're the best home team in the NHL. 31 wins, 5 losses, 4 overtime losses at home. Nobody else in the NHL, only one team, has 31 wins at home, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes. However, nobody has fewer regulation losses at home than the LA Kings. Only 5 regulation losses at home. Do you know how insane that is? Only 5 regulation losses? You play 41 home games a year. It just doesn't make sense, those numbers. It doesn't make sense. Out of 41 games? That is just wild. 5 regulation losses. So, very important for if LA gets home ice, I would pick them in that series. And I'm pretty sure the betting public would pick them as well. Well, if you want to know where the real money is going, unlike other sources, our betting splits here at VSiN come straight from Circa and DraftKings Sportsbooks. That means that you're going to get insight into where the sharp action is landing, because Circa, they're known for taking big bets from pro bettors, DraftKings providing a broader market perspective. So it means you're going to get the real action, not just the public money, but the kind of wagers that move lines. You can see the percentage of bets versus the percentage of handle on every game across every major sport. That's going to help you make smarter, more informed bets. Get VSiN's summer special right now for only $59, and that's good through August 1st. And you get it at vsin.com/subscribe. Again, it's vsin.com/subscribe. Get our summer special, only $59 through August 1st. All right, we're going to continue to sweat out this Calgary Flames game against the Sharks, as it is a 2-2 score with 7.5 minutes to go in the second period. And in LA, the Dodgers and the Cubs leading 3-2. Top of the 8th inning. We need some runs right here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Live Bet Sunday. I'm Scott Seidenberg on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, as we are sweating out 2 live bets here on the program. And we have a bet for the next game that comes up in about a half an hour or so, which is the last game of the night here on Sunday, the Colorado Avalanche at the Anaheim Ducks. But the bets that we are sweating out right now, the first is several bets on this Calgary Flames game against the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks trying to play the role of the spoiler, meanwhile the Flames trying to survive and keep their playoff hopes alive. If they win out, they put themselves in a great chance to capture a wild card in the Western Conference. Right now, we are knotted up at 2 apiece in the second period. Your live market right now is the Flames at minus 238, and your live total is 6.5. Now the Flames minus 245, as the market is quickly changing here and evolving. So the reason why I'm on the Flames, as I mentioned, they're great as a home favorite, while the Sharks are terrible as a road dog. Sharks, although great fight tonight, their season's winding down. These guys are playing, looking ahead to next season, or seeing what they're going to do in the offseason. Flames, meanwhile, playing with desperation with their season on the line. They lose, their season's over. So I did like them over 3.5 goals, just because of how many goals the Sharks give up. I like them minus 1.5 goals. And once they went down 1-0 in this game, we did bet them live on the money line, because they were minus 350 favorites to start the game. But live, down 1-0, we got them at minus 160. And so now we are tied at 2 with, let's see, we got about 3 minutes to go in the second period. And again, your live line is at Calgary minus 240. Ideally, I'd feel a lot better if Calgary got a goal here before the end of the period. But if we go into the third period and we're knotted at 2, we're still okay. I've said this several times when betting a team minus a goal and a half in a tie spot here, whether it's going into the third period or already in the third period. You're okay because of the empty net possibility at the end of the game. All you need is a lead with 2 minutes left. So if this thing goes tied 2-2 into the third period, I got 18 minutes for Calgary to get a goal and not allow one, obviously. But if they can just get the lead and have it with 2 minutes left, you're going to get an empty net opportunity, and at least you'll be live for the minus a goal and a half. If you look at recent performance, Calgary played against Minnesota in their last game. And this was a little bit of a desperation spot as well for both of these teams. Calgary went up 1-0 after the first period, a 3-0 lead after the second period, then they scored the fourth goal in the third period before allowing 2 goals there in the fourth for the game to finish at 4-2. This is not a good team in the San Jose Sharks. Certainly not as good as that Minnesota Wild team is. You scored 4 goals against that Minnesota Wild team. You should be able to score 4 goals here against the San Jose Sharks. You should absolutely be able to score 4 goals. The goaltender for the Sharks is Georgi Romanov. He's 0-5 this year. He allows like 4 goals a game, pretty much. In his last game, 3 goals. Last time he faced Calgary, he allowed 3 goals. He allowed 3 goals versus Edmonton, 8 goals in a game versus LA, 3 goals in a game versus Carolina. The only time that he has not allowed at least 3 goals were 2 games he came in relief, where he allowed 1 goal in 28 minutes against Seattle and 2 goals in 2 periods against Washington. But in every start that he has made, he has allowed 3 or more goals. That's the reason why we faded him tonight in this game and went with the Flames. Team total over 3.5, Flames minus a goal and a half, and the live bet on the Flames on the money line. Meanwhile, our live bet on the Sunday night baseball game, top of the 8th inning, we have the over 6.5 runs. Right now, in the top of the 8th inning, there is 1 out. The Cubs lead 3-2. The Cubs have runners on first and third. Dansby Swanson is up. Vesia is on the mound for the Dodgers. A single or a sac fly would make it a 4-2 game, and we are 1 run closer to hitting our total. And if they can extend the inning, we'll be on our way here, and the Cubs can help. This is what I mentioned before. This is why I mentioned it before, where instead of, and maybe take a look at this in certain situations. Now, I understand, like, depending on the juice it's gonna dictate what you decide to bet. Certainly, you could take a plus money flyer on something as opposed to laying a minus 150. But the reason why I recommended the live over in this game at 6.5, was because we were approaching a territory with a 2-1 score in the 6th inning that the Dodgers could be an attractive live play. They're coming off an embarrassing game last night where they got outscored 16-0. You had the heart of the lineup coming up, Ohtani, Betts, and whatnot. And the Cubs bullpen has not been great this season. However, I said instead of betting the Dodgers to come back and win the game, take the live total over 6.5. Because if you feel if you were so confident in the Dodgers coming back to win, down 2-1, that means at the very minimum, there would have to be 2 more runs scored for a 3-2 finish. That's 5 runs. But by betting the over 6.5, you give yourself cushion. You give yourself a little leeway. The Cubs can certainly score, or the Dodgers could score more than just 2 runs and win the game. or they could tie it up at 2, which is what they wound up doing, and then you're always live for extra innings where the ghost runner comes into play. So I felt that it's a smarter bet, especially in a tight game, low scoring like this, to take a live total rather than the dog to come back and win, because the extra inning possibility is alive. And now you got both teams that can score runs. You're not just reliant on the Dodgers to score. And then let's say the Dodgers do score and they go up 3-2, or they tied it 2-2 like they did. And then when PCA hits a home run the next inning, well, now you're bummed out on your live bet. But if you have the live total, you're okay with them scoring. Speaking of scoring, Nico Horner just singled to right field. Kyle Tucker scored. It is 1st and 3rd with 2 outs, and the Cubs now have a 4-2 lead over the Dodgers and the aforementioned Pete Crow Armstrong, who has 2 homers on the night, is up for the Cubs. One more run will cash the live total of 6.5. So PCA can stay hot and come through. We got ourselves a W. Live market right now is frozen, but it was at 7.5. Now it is okay. Now it is back down to 6.5, which is telling me that PCA gets out here. That's the only thing I can assume. Usually the sports books are always ahead of the TV feed. So if I see this at 6.5, maybe PCA gets out here. But I hope that they're wrong. The -6, actually over 6.5 is -175. So maybe it isn't ahead right now, or it could be. Let's see, did PCA get out there? I think he did. I'm looking at the TV. He might have gotten out. Okay, so here's where we are on the live market. You got 6.5 is your live total, which is what we have bet right now. Cubs are -580. Dodgers on the live line +380, down 2 runs here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, that's a bet I would not make, but I don't hate, again, I'm already in on the over 6.5. I would still bet it. You got the bottom of the 8th for the Dodgers, top of the 9th for the Cubs, and the bottom of the 9th for the Dodgers. You just need 1 run. Due up for the oh, wow. Nico Horner got picked off. That's how the inning ended. I guess he was trying to steal second, or, pitcher made a good move. And so even better, actually, for the live total. Because now we get Pete Crow Armstrong up in the top of the 9th. I love this. So here's who's up now for the Dodgers. You will have Michael Conforto, Will Smith, and Max Muncy in the bottom of the 8th inning. Should nobody get on base, in the bottom of the 9th, you will have Kike Hernandez, Rojas, and Ohtani. So you are guaranteed an Ohtani at bat in the bottom of the 9th inning, at least. And for the Cubs, because of Horner getting picked off, now we have Pete Crow Armstrong leading off the top of the 9th, who has 2 home runs on the night tonight. It'll be Pete Crow Armstrong, Carson Kelly, or Amaya. No, it should be Kelly and then Straw. And should somebody get on base, they're back to the top of the lineup with Ian Happ and Kyle Tucker. I would play the over 6.5 right now. Hey, ProfitX offering the best odds on baseball all season long. ProfitX, a peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40-plus states, is the first of its kind in the U.S. You're going to be able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans rather than the sports books, and exchanges guarantee you get the best odds on average by 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds. Download ProfitX today. Use promo code VSIN. Earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSIN.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg back here with you, Live Bet Sunday here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network, as we get the list of players that are going to not dress for the Colorado Avalanche in their game against the Ducks coming up in about 20 minutes or so from now. Here's the list of players that will not be playing tonight against the Ducks. Nathan McKinnon, Kel McCarr, Valerie Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen, Ross Colton, Jonathan Drouin, Josh Manson, and Ryan Lindgren. It's like, okay, this isn't. I don't want to disrespect the players that are going to be playing for the Avalanche, because you still got Brock Nelson and Marty Necas, and sure, but this is nowhere near. This isn't even a half-strength Colorado Avalanche team. Ducks right now, plus 110. That's going to be a best bet for me coming up here in about 20 minutes or so from now. Also, Ducks team total over 2.5 goals. Let's get back into the NBA, though, as today was the final day of the NBA regular season, meaning the playoffs are set. The play-in round will begin on Tuesday. Joining us now on the Progressive Guest Line is Joe Dellera, NBA analyst from the Action Network. Joe, thanks so much for joining us here on Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN. And let's start with the first of the play-in games, as we have the Hawks and the Magic in the 7-8 game in the Eastern Conference. Orlando, a 5.5-point favorite. What's your take on this matchup, and what's your take on the winner of this game moving forward?
I think that Orlando should be able to take care of business here. And for me, I put together a little same game parlay that I cooked up with one of my buddies, Jim Turvey, also another guy at the Action Network and for Roto Grinders. But we were doing Paolo 20 plus points, Franz 20 plus points, and the Magic money line. It's about minus 109 right now. They've gone over those lines in every game against the Hawks this season. It should be a pretty fast-paced game. We should see a ton of minutes for those guys. And I just like Orlando in this spot either way. I think that they're better from an advanced metrics perspective, and they're about as healthy as they've been for in a while, really, this season. They've dealt with a lot of injury issues. So I like Orlando here. I think that Orlando is going to eventually run into that buzzsaw that's the Boston Celtics, just because I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with them in terms of scoring. But they do play a pretty physical style of basketball that might put a little bit of wear and tear on Boston. We'll have to see how Jaylen Brown's doing too. Obviously, he got that knee injection into his knee, rather. And maybe he's not 100%. Maybe Orlando can steal a game or two. But at the end of the day, I think that they're going to just be a first round out, no matter who kind of advances from this first play-in tournament game in the East.
So the loser of this game will then take on the winner of the Heat and the Bulls. That game on Wednesday. The Bulls are a 1.5-point favorite over Miami. What do you like in this one? And then in the subsequent matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, if you will.
Yeah, I think that the Bulls actually have a decent chance here. They play at a pretty fast pace, and they've had some success against Miami. Josh Giddey's really put together quite the season. Vucevic is able to get up some points as well, and maybe we'll be able to see Lonzo Ball as long as he's healthy enough to play. So that would definitely be a little bit of a boost for Chicago. But I think that they would be live in a game against Atlanta. They shoot a ton of threes, and that's one of the things that's dangerous about Chicago is they just keep chucking threes. So they can beat anybody really in a one-game situation. And against an Atlanta team who doesn't really have a great defense and plays at a fast pace, you're going to be seeing a lot of opportunities for Chicago to maybe get out of the play-in tournament, which you wouldn't normally be saying like, oh, well, this is a spot that they could do that. They're plus 390 to get out of the play-in. I don't hate it. I think that you'd probably be better off at a money line rollover, though, just in case somebody gets hurt or something freaky happens.
For sure. I always recommend that. In the Western Conference, the 7-8 game will be the Grizzlies at the Warriors, and Golden State now up to a 7.5-point favorite over Memphis. I don't want to say inexcusable loss here to the Clippers. It's a very tough game, but Draymond Green, dude, just dunk the ball. Like, I don't understand what he was doing, trying to draw contact and get to the free throw line. Could have made that layup or dunk to tie the game, but they blow a chance at home to secure a playoff spot. Now they're in the play-in round. You got to bounce back up quickly here because you got a hungry Memphis Grizzlies team coming into town. That being said, the line is 7.5. What does that line say to you? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Is it right around where you project it to be for the Warriors at home?
I think there's a couple things going on here. Number one, it's the Golden State Warriors. You have Steph Curry, you have Draymond Green, you added Jimmy Butler. You expect this team to get out of the play-in tournament. On the flip side, you have Memphis, who's dealing with their, the coaching turnover and things like that in the locker room. I think that honestly, though, Memphis is the side here because we saw Jimmy Butler come up a little bit lame. He got hit in the knee. We don't know how that's going to go over the next couple of days. Steph Curry was dealing with a thumb issue. Obviously, he balled out today, but who knows if that swells up? Who knows how Jimmy Butler responds to that type of injury issue that where he bumped knees with Kawhi Leonard. So I think that Memphis is a team that could push the Golden State Warriors. I think that Memphis has obviously had some issues, but Golden State has really struggled to defend Ja Morant. And in a single game setting where things kind of develop a little bit more into the half court, that pick and roll with Ja Morant, Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be pretty effective against this relatively undersized Golden State Warriors team. So I like the Grizzlies at really over 2 possessions. So if you can get it to 7.5, that's what I would want to grab in this spot.
All right, moving on to the other Western Conference play-in game. The Dallas Mavericks are at the Kings. Sacramento, a 5.5-point favorite. And here are the Mavericks, Nico's upset. Everyone hates Nico with the trade. Luka's crying and the nice tribute there. But you know what? They got a chance here. You got a chance. You win a game. You put yourself in a position. Maybe you get into the playoffs. Like, what does that do for you? At least it builds morale. They're 5.5-point dogs, though, in Sacramento. What do you like in this matchup?
I like the Dallas Mavericks again. I'm grabbing a lot of dogs here, but I think that the narrative around Dallas is obviously poor.
Yep.
But at the same time, they've been hurt for the majority of the season, and you do have a number of players that are extremely talented. In obviously Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford as well on the interior. And when you can defend players like DeMar DeRozan is not somebody that's going to stretch the floor. Domantas Sabonis is not somebody that's going to stretch the floor. So I do think that there is an opportunity here for the Mavericks to at least keep this close. So I would grab the plus 5.5 with Dallas.
Joe Dellera from the Action Network joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Looking ahead, Joe, to the series that we know that we're going to see coming up here this week. If we look at the series market prices, does anything jump off the page to you? Nuggets are minus 165 against the Clippers. You have the Knicks, heavy favorites, minus 425 against the Pistons. Lakers minus 190 to get by the Timberwolves. And the Pacers minus 190 to get by the Bucks. Any of those series prices jump off the page to you?
I think the Clippers are pretty live in this spot against the Denver Nuggets, and I also like the Indiana Pacers. I would just lay the juice and take Indiana to beat the Bucks here. I think that Milwaukee's dealing with way too many injuries right now, and we don't know. Dame, maybe he can make it back at some point, but we really don't know. There's a lot of questions there, and Tyrese Halliburton has started to look like the Tyrese Halliburton that we saw before the All-Star break last season. So I like what I'm seeing out of Indiana. They've sneakily been an extremely good team in the second half of the season, and they almost got into the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think that they really wanted this matchup against Milwaukee. They're pretty confident in it, and I like Indiana against Milwaukee. I think that Indiana has been a much better team over the back half of the season.
As far as any series spread, I mean, you mentioned that you think the Clippers are live. Clippers are plus 135 to win the series. What about Clippers plus 1.5 games, minus 165?
Yeah, I like that. And then I was kind of line shopping between, because we mentioned this before we hopped on air, but I was able to find an over 5.5 games at minus 164 at
like
FanDuel.
that.
So
Yeah.
I don't mind that at either. I think that that's a spot where, we should see 6 games. I think that either team is going to be able to pick up 2 games here. I think it's going to be a tightly contested series. So I like both. I do think that the Clippers might be the right side, but I'd rather just grab the over 5.5 games at basically the same juice.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually good advice, because if it's the same juice, at least you buy yourself the possibility of it being it doesn't go 7 and the series ends in 6 games. So I like that as well. Joe, appreciate the time and the insight. Good luck with your bets. Enjoy the start of the play-in tournament coming up on Tuesday.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
There he is, Joe Dellera, NBA analyst for the Action Network. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Make sure you take VSiN wherever you go, whether you're at home or on the road or on the go. No, there's more ways to watch VSiN, to tune in. You got to know this. You can stream us live on VSiN.com. You can use the VSiN Watch app. You can watch us on YouTube TV, listen on iHeartRadio, Fire TV, Roku, or the Sirius XM channel 158. So many ways to tune into VSiN. There's really no excuse to miss out on any of the content. We are going to the bottom of the ninth. There's already one out in the bottom of the ninth. Dodgers and Cubs. Kike Hernandez strikes out looking. Pete Crow Armstrong led off the top of the ninth with a triple. So a runner on third with nobody out. And the Cubs could not get the run in. We need Ohtani to do something for us coming up here. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Live Bet Sunday here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.